There it is.
Wait, are we live?
We're live, yeah.
Oh, hey, everybody. There we go. Hi. Welcome to the 40/40, man. It's a baseball podcast that features a guy who knows a heck of a lot about the sport and someone else. I'm that someone else. My name is David Bronfman. I'm your interim co-host, and welcome to the show. Greg.
And my name is Greg Howard, and I'm unfortunately here all the time.
Mm-hmm.
But we usually have a friend of ours give us a little update from China.
Mm-hmm.
But unfortunately, here's the best way to sort of describe it. I'm gonna sort of piece him in exactly where it was, because his feed cut out just as we were about to go to him, and it kind of is like the last shot that you get from when the Venera probe died on Venus.
He may as well be calling in from Venus.
Yeah, well, that's what it sounds like sometimes where he's from. So I'm gonna give you the close up of this.
Yeah. Because
notice the cigarette in the mouth. Yeah.
Well, he is in China.
Yeah.
I think that it's pretty much a requirement.
Mm-hmm. That's literally like, you know, it's just about to go over the horizon. Like, I actually want to play his intro just because of how his head looks at that point. I'm going to throw that on. He needs a cigarette in that one.
This is life imitating art.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, so wait, what's the deal? So we've lost Jeff?
We lost Jeff for the day.
All right.
We lost Jeff for the day. So
well, Jeff, thanks for calling in. At some point in time, we will perfect this technology.
We are going all the way around the world.
Yeah.
That is something different. Oh, there he is. Hey.
What? Oh, get out. Okay.
Let's try it. Let's try him again.
All right. Well, while you load him up, do you want me to chat about some stuff?
Yeah.
So hate to start the day on a negative note, but may as well talk about the Osuna news that happened this week.
Well, he's
So now been officially banned, and you all know that. And so he's officially suspended, until August 4th, which is 4 days after the trade deadline. Mm-hmm. And which is like a 75-day full suspension.
Well, that means, do you really want to touch him? Yeah.
What that means is that the independent investigation that baseball set upon him found enough evidence to say that he deserved a suspension. Mm-hmm. So there we go. Lovely. A 23-year-old, pretty much. Way to end your career, buddy.
Yeah.
So hey, do we have Jeff?
We got Jeff.
Okay, great.
All right, let's go.
Okay.
Jeff, can you hear us? Yeah, this really is a space probe. At least it's a shinier picture.
Square train station next to the Japanese mall, the Eon Mall. I am Jeff. I am going to talk about baseball from over the wall. And well, it's been an interesting week. I was surprised the Angels, because you know they're on their way to the playoffs and we're on our way to. But you know that's the way it is. They upped his value trade, so the question now is, who are we going to trade him to? Enough to trade him within the division? The Yankees could probably use it. I think Seattle could use, or maybe not the Astros. Me, the Brewers could use somebody, but I'm looking forward to seeing where Happ is going to go, and the rest. And like I said last week, anybody else who has a contract. Devin Trapp, hitting up the 2/3. Randall Bridge.
He's. I think he's stopped.
Is he still going?
Yeah, I think he's stopped.
I think he's still going.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we lost him again. It was so close. So close. Thank you. Thanks once again, Jeff. Again, the other side of the planet. You should be thankful that we see him even at all.
The technology today.
Yeah.
Okay, well, let's talk about some other stuff as well.
Yeah.
I think he was going to be mentioning it. We seem to do well against former Cy Young pitchers.
Yeah.
I mean, Max Scherzer, Strasburg always up in there. We do well against Chris Sale whenever we play against Boston. We just beat Justin Verlander yesterday going into the World Series champs. And Randall Grichuk, you know, yet again, some late inning homers and also late inning heroics from that guy.
Yeah.
So robbed him for what would have been a game tying home run. And yeah, like we end up beating Justin Verlander. And yet again, it was another Hap start. So Hap is just sort of padding his resume to sort of go on to other teams because that's pretty much our big trading chip that we have at this point in time. As Jeff was mentioning, do we trade him within the division? Do we trade him with the Angels now? That remains to be seen. That's going to happen obviously in a couple of weeks. But yeah.
Well, look, I mean, it is the halfway season.
It's halfway point.
It is the halfway point of the season. And I know we're already talking about dismantling the team, but have you got $10 to spare?
Sure.
Because if you do, and you put that money down on the Jays to take the World Series, you could get yourself a crisp $5,000 bill in return if they win.
Oh wow!
That's 500 to 1 odds, which is not terrible.
Well, here's something to think of though. Right?
Yeah.
I always sort of look at what the Jays record was at specific points, you know, at specific years, and I use 2014 and 2015 for examples, because 2014 we actually were doing very well. We were in first in the AL East at this point in time. On this date in 2014, we were 45-36, and we ended up floundering at the end.
Yeah.
And in 2015, we were fourth in the American League East. And that's when we obviously Double A, you know, pulled off some magic and got us a lot of pieces, but it's not impossible. I mean, we were fourth in the American League East, and he made those trades, and we're fourth in the American League East right now.
Yeah. With
two teams that are fully dominating. We actually did gain 2.5 games on the wild card. So, hey.
How many games out of the wild card? Okay.
We're 10 back. We were 12.5. We were 12.5 before.
So, well, I guess that's not horrible. It's not the Orioles.
2.5 in a week. You know what? It's not. It's not the Mets.
It's not the Mets.
It's not the Mets. And I've been itching to chat about the Mets for a little while.
Yeah, I know. We've been planning on talking about the Mets for the last 4 or 5 episodes.
We'll save that for a minute because you did mention halfway point.
Yeah,
and I figure it's imperative that we choose who we think are going to win the divisions.
Okay.
Because that's I mean, obviously people listen to this because of our in-depth sports analysis, and
yes,
yeah, that's about it now. I can't really.
Does Vancouver have a baseball team?
They do, not a Major League Baseball team.
All right, I'm out. Who do you think is gunning for the wild card?
Well, here's the trick: the American League West and the American League East. It's 2-horse race in each of those, and they're so far ahead of everyone that the wild card option is even out probably in the American League. So it's going to be Houston, followed by Seattle in the West. It's going to be either the Yankees or the Red Sox because they're like just a little behind each other, and they're 10 games ahead of everybody else. The crap part about this is we could actually end up with a better record than the Central Division champ, which is Cleveland right now, and they're the only one that's really actually playing any good baseball. And
that automatically puts you into the postseason.
Yeah. That's the American League right there. The American League is pretty much done. The National League, I actually think this one has a little more thing. Chicago and St. Louis are going to be gunning it out throughout the middle. I do think Chicago will come up, and I think St. Louis will take a wild card. I believe that the Nationals will finish it off in first place, and the Braves will be back in the playoffs. Braves will be back in the playoffs as a wild card team. The Dodgers look to have the West locked up.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. Actually, strangely, and this may be bad luck, I agree with you with the Nationals. So I may have just cursed them by doing that, but I actually think they're gonna. Yeah, I think they're going to take the National League.
National League East. Yeah,
I got it. But I actually think that the Yankees are going to plummet. I think they're going to go. They're going to play the wild card game, and
it's either or. Yeah.
And so I don't think they're going to get the division.
This excites me.
Yeah,
I like hearing that.
Yeah,
because I'm traditionally the homer in this thing, and I'm fully will.
No, the Yankees are going to plummet, and they're going to lose the wild card game to the Mariners. Mariners.
Just Baltimore, just for fun.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So wait. So to speak about Baltimore, Baltimore's on pace to be 30 games back by the end of June.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know who the last team that was 30 games back at the end of June was? It was the Blue Jays. It was the Blue Jays in 1979.
That's 2 years after expansion. That's all right.
Oh yeah,
we were fine with that.
But who were chasing Baltimore at the time? Yeah, so that's my that's my thing. I think right now it's just a question of who's going to be playing the Astros in the World Series.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, that's the thing. It's like that once in a while, no one ever goes, 30-0 for their pitching campaign. So I mean, Justin Verlander is still on fire. Like since he's come over from Detroit, he's had 26 starts and he's won 21 of them. Like that's ridiculous. So I mean, he's he's got to lose a game here or there, and apparently it's against the Jays. We seem to do well against Cy Young winners, and let's try our rookie, bringing him up, and we'll get smoked by him. So.
Of course, yeah. Well, there we go.
But back to what I was going to mention earlier on. The first 12 games into the season, the Mets had the best record in all of baseball, 11-1.
Yeah. And
right now they are half a game out of being dead last in the National League.
So it's
in their last 65 games, they have won 20 of them.
Now I remember when they were on that hot streak and they were doing the pepper grinder. They were doing the pepper grinder. Remember that? Yeah. Remember they were like, this is how they're celebrating. Yeah. They're like they're with the pepper. I'm gonna rename this to the double-fisted hand job because that's how the Mets are playing right now. Double-fisted hand job. Yeah, they are the third worst team in the league in terms of batting average, and they have the worst home batting average in all of the majors.
They've got one shining piece, which is Jacob deGrom, because even Syndergaard, Syndergaard's on the DL right now, but I mean Jacob deGrom is pretty much the only one that's really helping them out at this point in time. But it is not necessarily these players' fault, because the Mets just have a history of being a horrible, horrible franchise.
It's just crazy. Like they just have bad luck after bad luck after bad luck. And right before we went to air, I just saw that that Mets GM Sandy Alderson is going to take a leave of absence starting immediately because of cancer. Because they just cannot get a break.
So some of the stuff, I don't know if you guys know about this, some of the stuff that they've sort of done this. Citi Field's brand spanking new. It's only a few years old, and the owner, Wilpon, which we'll get to him in a second, grew up being a Brooklyn Dodgers fan, which the Brooklyn Dodgers still exist as the Los Angeles Dodgers. So when he had the stadium built, he had the stadium mimic a lot of Dodger-esque things and have a lot of references to the Dodgers. You own a franchise and they play against them. I mean, they consistently schedule surgeries for some of their players in January when they're clearly out of the race by October. That could have given them 3 months to heal. There's another thing about Citi Field as well. There's apparently some Phillies jerseys buried at Citi Field.
Yeah.
Some Sox fans tried to do that at Yankee Stadium, and the Yankees brought a shitstorm down. Like literally, even took a backhoe to that corner and dug it up. The Mets haven't done that.
So they're Chris. You know what they're calling Citi Field these days?
What?
They're calling it the city morgue.
City morgue. I could see that
because they just can't. They can't
win.
Well, they can't hit when they're
83 to 2010. Their equipment manager Charlie Samuel was selling equipment online to cover his gambling losses, like some of the Mets equipment, selling his memorabilia and stuff like that. You had an acronym that you were going to use for pitchers that now play for another team that have thrown no hitters or perfect games. Tatoff. They've got 7.
Oh boy,
7.
Just this amount of luck. And also you also have the presence of Jose Reyes.
Yes, who a little bit of an abuser.
Who I believe that the existence of Jose Reyes and his continued having a jobness is I hold as proof that God does not exist.
Oh yeah,
because he is by all respects like not just a horrible human being, but now he's a horrible player.
Oh yeah,
and he's he just took Ahmed Rosario's place.
Well, he won a batting title with the Mets, and this is another asterisk moment. Okay, he won a batting title a few years back before he was traded to the Marlins. Then by process traded to us. He had an at bat in the first inning, got a hit, and then pulled himself so that he didn't go over for the rest of them, so that his batting average was just a point or 2 above. And that's a dick move.
You're just a stellar human being, Jose Reyes.
Other
a pillar of the community.
Yeah, other good aspects of of the Mets just having horrific luck is they traded Nolan Ryan. They traded Nolan Ryan for Jim Fregosi.
Jim Fregosi, Hall of Famer Jim Fregosi.
Jim Fregosi turned out to be a good manager, shit player. The Bobby Bonilla contract, which we've mentioned before, and also the Wilpons, the owner, lost well over $1 billion to Bernie Madoff. They just have bad luck after bad luck after bad luck, and it's also mismanagement. So I feel terrible for Mets fans. The last World Series they won was 1986.
Right.
They actually were in the series a couple of years ago. They only won one game. It was a 5-game series, and the only game they won was Noah Syndergaard pitched, who's on the deal right now.
I did find a little bit of good luck that they had. I think it's probably their luckiest moment of the last few years. It was in 2013, and Jacob deGrom, who was almost seriously sidelined. A week before spring training, he was helping a neighbor castrate a calf when it kicked him and broke his finger. But he got better and played the season.
But helping a neighbor castrate a calf.
Yeah.
Like he used to play for the Rockies at the time. Clint Barnes, who infielder, was helping an old lady carry groceries up the steps and fell and tore his ACL.
Oh my God.
In terms of that, guys helping out.
Yeah. So what you're saying is at least we're not the Mets.
At least we're not the Mets. We are in 4th right now, little over midway in the American League. It's not as bad as that. So you can hold your head a tiny bit higher.
Right. And today's news is also with the Jays is that Donaldson, as part of his rehab, just got himself a brand new calf strain.
Yes.
And
fetching ground balls. Yeah.
And so now he's going to miss 3 more weeks. The good news is that he has been cleared by his trainers to cross the street at designated crosswalks. So there's that. So I think that's actually a net positive. Really?
Yes.
In
he's not allowed to jaywalk though, because that's a
no, he hasn't been cleared for that.
That's a full medial lateral tear. Exactly. Some other sort of fun stuff on the weekend though. We have a new Ish Smith in the league.
Yes. Yeah. Talk about it.
Ish Smith, journeyman basketball player, has played for 11 teams.
He's played for 10 teams.
10 teams. Edwin Jackson has now tied Omar Doctel for the most teams in a career, and he's actually only 34 years old, so we can actually still play a few more.
Crush it.
Yeah, he's now on his 13th team, technically 14 because he was on the Jays for 24 hours and then involved in a Colby Rasmus trade. So he was, by statistics, he's never lost a game as a Blue Jay. But he's suited up for 13 teams.
Yeah.
Stepped on the mound, but he has been a part of 14 teams. Dodgers, Tampa Bay, Detroit, Arizona, which is important because he threw an 8-walk no-hitter.
Yeah, he's only
2010.
He's only one of 30 active pitchers to have a no-hitter under their belt. Yeah.
St. Louis, Chicago, both Chicago's, White Sox and Red Sox. White Sox and Cubs. Washington, Atlanta, Miami, San Diego, Baltimore, and now Oakland.
So look, people like him, just not enough to keep him.
He was he pitched 6 innings, gave up 1 run, 6 hits, struck out 7. His fastball was still 92 miles an hour.
Yeah. This was the game that he just. This is on his 13th team. And back to that no hitter that he did in 2010. In the first 3 innings, he pitched 70 pitches in the first 3 innings of that game.
It was like 149 pitches. Yeah.
So look, the guy, obviously he has some endurance, and he's very much like my favorite bench player in the entire NBA, Ish Smith. Yeah, who was also fairly young and has played for 10 teams.
But he was on 3 teams in 1 season, wasn't
he? Yeah. I'm calling it now. I know it's a baseball podcast, but Dwayne Casey, former coach of the Toronto Raptors, is now coach of the Detroit Pistons. Ish Smith seems to have found a temporary home at least, with the Pistons. Dwayne Casey is well known for coaching six man of the year. Mm-hmm. I'm calling it right now. Ish Smith is going to win the 6th man of the year next season. All right, and
nice.
So I feel pretty good about that. This that led me down a little bit of a rabbit hole as far as like records in other leagues for journeyman players. And so we did talk about the NBA, 10 games for Ish Smith. He's not the record holder. Joe Smith is the record holder with 12 teams. In the NHL, you follow hockey. Uh-huh. So who do you think has played for the most teams?
Oh, I mean, it's got to be Jagger. Jagger's up there as well. He's played for 8.
Mike Sillinger.
I remember
who played for 12 teams.
Jeez.
Yeah, and in the NFL's more difficult because you've got like linebackers who
do half a season and
yeah, exactly. So it would be very difficult, and I would give you extra points if you could guess the NFL player who's got the record and how many teams.
And you mentioned linebacker. It's a linebacker.
Yeah. JT O'Sullivan.
What's with the Sullivans?
Yeah, it's well, they like to get tossed around a lot. 11 teams in the NFL. But then we get into there actually are records that are greater than what we've been talking about. Mm-hmm. Cricket. And you're from South Africa, so you should at least be aware of these players. You're familiar with a guy named Dirk Nannies?
Dirk Nannies?
Dirk Nannies.
It sounds an Afrikaner name, but no, I'm not familiar with him.
He's a left arm pacer.
Okay.
Okay. And he's played for 18 T20 cricket teams. That's only 2 more than
because that's going South Africa, England, Australia, India.
So T20 because it's tough when you're talking about leagues and but I counted the T20 for all you cricket fans out there as one.
Well, that's the thing. Like for soccer players, there's some that have played for umpteen amounts. Yeah.
See, that's the thing. I got the soccer stat, but it's so difficult because they go from league to league. And John Burridge, 29 teams, who only suited up for 20. So he's been tossed around a lot. Wow. And he also holds the record as the oldest Premier League player ever. Who he played for Man City when he was 43 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
But think about the amount of times you got to move. Like
I've always said it. Ish Smith has never fully unpacked a suitcase.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty happy that he's found a home. And who knows? Like this is the thing. Like with Edwin Jackson, who by the way, you told me to look up Edwin Jackson, and of course I get to like the Colts linebacker who was killed by a drunk driver.
Yeah.
all the research that you made me do this week has been really, really depressing. And we're going to get into it.
All right. Well,
we may as well get into it now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Greg always hands me a project.
All right. So.
Once a week, and then I come back with the information that he has told me to assemble for him. It's something that we like to call "What Did Dave Learn This Week?"
What did Dave learn this week?
All right. So you sent me a text, and the text said HBP, which I initially thought you were telling me that you had warts. But it was not that. I don't think that's the case. And in fact, I didn't really do a follow-up with you because I didn't want to ask.
No problem.
HBP, which is hit by pitches. And
it's not Half-Blood Prince from Harry Potter.
Oh, no. Well, it could be. But in this case, because it has to do with baseball, and that's what I've learned. See, being hit by pitches, and this has got to be the most. This has been the most depressing topic that you've made me look up so far, and it's horrifying now that I know the kind of damage that a baseball can do.
Oh yeah,
I'm absolutely like. It's truly terrifying.
Well, you've seen a couple of dudes that actually have Stanton is one because he's got his cheek smashed out. You have that little mouth guard as well. Yeah. Still crowds the inside of the plate though, but he's a big dude. So. Well,
okay. So I'm going to get into that with this whole crowding the plate kind of thing, and how some players seem to draw pitches more often than other players. But the history of this, the horrible. Disgusting history of being hit by pitches, sort of like in terms of famous stories, obviously starts with Ray Chapman in 1920, who was hit in the head by Carl Mays, and then died the next morning. He's the only major league player to have known to have incurred a fatal injury and died the next morning. See how depressing this is?
Oh yeah. But you have to also think about the protective, that was just a baseball hat.
Yeah. He was just wearing a baseball hat.
Yeah.
As was Mickey Cochran, who was hit in the head in 1937 and continued the game, but then fell into a coma that lasted for 10 days, and he had to retire after that. Don Zimmer, also before protection.
Don Zimmer, you can see because Don Zimmer has. You saw what being hit by pitches did to that guy.
Yeah,
like he actually was almost sort of like a life-size version or a real life version of Ernie Pantuzo.
Oh yeah. So just completely forgets it. He was hit in the head, and he had 4 metal buttons surgically implanted into his skull afterwards. I'm assuming one of them is the on-off button.
And the other one, hey, we got this switch from good to evil.
So we have then a history of new protective equipment. In 1956, helmets or a plastic liner under your cap were required. So if you didn't want to wear a helmet in 1956, you could wear a plastic liner under your hat. In 1971 is the dawning of full helmets being required, and ear flaps.
Which is odd because in 73 the designated hitter rule was adopted as well. So like 2 big things that sort of happened just in
helmets and designated
helmets and designated hitter, yeah,
all at the same time. Ear flaps started being required since 1983, which I think is fairly recent for that. And you still only need to have 1 ear flap on one side, whereas in college you got to have both ear flaps, just in case you turn your head.
Yeah, and because that's being nailed on the base path. Yeah.
Yeah. So there is just again some just really horrifying stories. You got Tony Conegler was hit in the left eye by a fastball in 1967. He shattered his cheekbone. There's a lot of shattered cheekbones. You don't want to look this stuff up.
That happened to Stanton. That happened to Trout. Got hit in the face with well. You've got some guys that have been hit over 200 times.
Yes.
as well.
Yeah.
Craig Biggio, whose kid is now part of the Jays organization, 285 times. Tommy Tucker, 272.
Yeah.
Don Baylor, 267. Ron Hunt, 243. Dan McCann, 230. And our boy Chase Utley, who's still playing, Mac McDonald's favorite player.
We could go do a catch.
200 times. And these guys,
he's the current active leader.
Yeah.
Right. But he's only been hit by a pitch once this season, so I think he's learning his lesson.
Yeah. Well, but he hasn't also played a hell of a lot too.
Oh, is that the reason?
You've got the record for the season. Did you find out on that?
Yeah, it's somewhere in here.
1896, 51 times in one season by a guy named Huey Jennings. Granted, at least in 1896, they weren't throwing the ball as fast.
Yeah.
The most in the 2000s is Brandon Geyer, who is 31 in 2016.
Well, Huey Jennings, he was hit by pitch a total of 287 times over from 1891 to 1925. This is what so once he was hit in the head in the first inning, and he shook it off and he played the rest of the game, and then he, according to the news, slept for 3 days. Now I'm not a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't pretend to be, but I'm just going to call that a coma.
Yeah. Well, the reason why I brought this up was because Jurickson Profar, less than a month ago, got hit 3 times in the same game.
Jurickson Profar.
And then got hit 3 times in a game on Friday.
So he has 2
3-hit games.
Yeah.
And we're not talking like hitting with the bat. We're talking about getting beamed with the like. At least he didn't get hit in the head or the face, but it's elbow, knee.
Yeah.
Like that's it.
You know what the record is for being hit 3 times in a single game? Former Blue Jay Reed Johnson. Has been hit 3 times on 3 separate occasions in a single game.
Here's actually some kind of awesomely shitty. Jackie Robinson got hit in the head a lot.
Yeah.
In his first 3 seasons in the league.
Yeah.
And from the span of time in 1951, 3 out of the top 4 people that were hit most were black players. And I'm pretty sure that was
this is
just we're throwing at you.
Really?
But I've got a fake trivia for you.
Oh no!
All right. Okay. So these are fake baseball players involved being hit by a pitch. Who holds the record for the most times hit in the head by a baseball player, a fake baseball player? Would it be A, Ernie Pantuzo, B, Kenny Powers, or C, Jack Elliott from Mr. Baseball?
Oh, it's Ernie Pantuzo was an expert. He talked about how he talked about how, like, hey, just lean a little bit, clunk, and like took it in the head. I'm gonna say it's Ernie Pantuzo.
You are correct.
Yes.
Okay. Other fake baseball. This one's pretty easy. In the movie Mr. Baseball, which takes place somewhere. Out of these 3, which has been hit by the most pitchers in a Japanese baseball league?
Tom Selleck.
Bang. Yeah, there we go. And last one, obviously you've only got one left. Who holds the record for hits batters in the Mexican League? Kenny Powers? Ernie Pantuzo?
I'm going to go with whoever's not left.
Kenny Powers? Or are you going to go with the one actually with the ball in the glove on the pitcher's mound in that pitcher? Yes.
Yeah.
I believe that would be correct.
Oh, all right. See, that was the hint. That was the hint that I didn't even understand. Wow. So, and then I guess really that's been my my depressing subject. But what I did learn a couple of odd things or interesting things just before we move on. What I didn't know, because I am learning the game, is that you can get hit by a pitch, a non-swing, and you're not swinging, and you can be refused the base. And it doesn't happen all that often. In fact, the last time that I saw that happen was 2 years ago, and it happened to Josh Donaldson. And it's in the rule book that you need to at least try to get out of the way.
Oh yes, okay. I was like, you have to make some form of a move. Like if guys just up there and get plunked, then yes, it's going to happen.
And so this makes me question this whole sort of like crowding the plate thing. Like, why does a guy like Anthony Rizzo get hit so
26
often?
times? Because that's just the way some people get comfortable hitting, and it's it's one of the first things that you have to do in order to hit at the major league level is be comfortable of where you're standing, because there's 500 things that have to go right before the pitcher even pitches. You have to, know because you have a blink of an eye to know if you're going to swing, know where the ball's going to go, or dive the hell out of the way.
Yeah.
So,
well, look, it's pretty amazing because Rizzo does not wear any arm protection as well. So that's and he's clearly seems to be okay with getting hit by pitch. He was the league leader in 2 non-consecutive seasons. He's been hit by pitch 11 times so far this year. And it just leads me to the final thing, which is getting hit by pitches and the law. And a question as to whether or not you could, say, charge somebody or get somebody arrested or sue somebody for being hit, especially when these pitches are done in
retaliation.
In retaliation. So the courts have heard this argument, not from the major leagues, but in 2006 in California, there was a court case brought by a community college player who got hit in retaliation, and it went all the way to the Supreme Court of California, and they basically said that getting hit by a pitch, even if it's in retaliation, is a cost of doing business. They said that the player has voluntarily accepted that the risk, he's accepted that risk with knowledge and appreciation of that risk. And so it went through like a couple of appeals, went all the way to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court has spoken of California. So it's not law of the land yet.
It's the state Supreme Court.
But there you go. So feel free, being away, as they say. They said that at the Mexican restaurant that I was at.
Let's pay some bills quickly.
Oh yeah, let's do it.
Here we go. All right, our trivia for today. Please, someone actually, because we've got some stuff to give away. Like our lovely rep from Henderson has given us like a lot of swag.
Yeah, we're drowning in t-shirts.
Yeah. So right now, okay. So your question for the day is the last year the Mets won the World Series, plus the amount of teams Edwin Jackson has pitched for. And the amount of guys named Dave in this episode of the podcast. It should be fairly easy, guys. That should be fairly easy. We've actually mentioned 2 of those things before, and if you do the math,
I think I know the answer to one of those.
Yeah.
Things.
So it's gonna start getting to like Celebrity Jeopardy in a second. Where are you right now? If you wrote to Earth.
For God's sakes, people, we have prizes waiting to be given away.
Waiting to be given away. I've had to just sort of ditch stuff off just on the oh well.
Just giving it to homeless people.
Yeah,
how dare you? How dare you?
How
dare you clothe the homeless?
African nations, like when they give away all the who didn't win the World Series T-shirts.
Well, now it's going to be all the Roberto Osuna T-shirts.
Yeah, and also the amount of times that you go to Ghana and there's Buffalo Bills fans like World Series or sorry Super Bowl champ T-shirts and that one. The Jays are actually sending someone to the Wolves right now. Or sending someone to the Lions. We've got a rookie who's making his first big league start against only the World Series champions, Ryan Barecki, 15th round pick in 2012. He's done pretty well throughout the farms, and he is starting tonight against unfortunately the World Series champs. He's 6-5 right now. He's 6'4" lefty. Apparently has mid to upper 90s on the fastball. Good arsenal pitcher. So we'll see how he does.
See how many people he hits.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that sounds. Greg, I think we put in some decent minutes here.
I'm good with that.
Yeah. Yeah. Dog didn't make any noise.
No, that's
two episodes now.
All over the place.
Dog says nothing. All right, folks. Well, thank you once again, and thank you to Henderson Brewing for throwing us the beer and you the swag, hopefully. And as always, our broadcast platform or podcast platform is stage10.tv. That's the word 10 attached to the word stage, not in that order, .tv. Go there if you feel like doing a podcast and Greg over here loves to do all the switching and stuff. Like he's working it constantly. We got the graphics, we got sound.
I'm not like some genius DJ from Sweden.
Every once in a while, we get someone from China.
Yeah.
So look, I love the future. Go over to stage10.tv and see what you can do if you guys want to, come join us into the fold. Anyhow, it's been a good week. And until next week, this is me, Dave Bronfman. This guy's Greg Howard, and I'm saying, stay safe.
Later. Yeah. I think the last shot should be just of Jeff with the smoke in the mouth.
What, are we still live?
Oh, we're still live, yeah. Right. Either that or
Jeff, how we miss you.
And we're out.
All right.